It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my friend Tom. Tom, how are you today, man?
Doing well. Take two. Nobody knows, but I guess us. But we did a whole what would you say? That was 5 minutes, maybe at least, of an intro. We realized we weren't live, but we are live now. I'm doing well. Special Sunday evening edition of Pickin' Fights. Pretty good fights yesterday. Max Holloway. What'd you think of that one, Keith?
Max Holloway remains great. He's who he always has been. He's definitely the ultimate gatekeeper for Volk right now, but former champ, definitely a Hall of Famer, and seasoned opponent, the most seasoned opponent possible in the division for Arnold Allen to sharpen his tools and learn a little bit from last night. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think last night was a case where both fighters' stock rose. During from their performances last night. So I think Max goes out there and he gets a decision win over a guy that a lot of people had really high regard for coming into that fight. And then for Arnold Allen, he was able to go out there and compete. And even at the end of the fight, putting on that onslaught and having that good fifth round that he had, showed that he can go out there and he is at the top of the division too. And like you said, Max Holloway being a gatekeeper for Alexander Volkanovski, it shows that Arnold Allen is towards the top. He is up there. He can compete with Max Holloway, who's a gatekeeper, but ultimately Max is probably the second best, and we'll really find that out when Volk fights in a couple months. But as of right now, Max is still at the top, and there's a couple cases of that where you have the champion, and then you have the number 2 guy who just can't quite beat the champion, but is far better than everyone else. Robert Whittaker is an example of that. There was one more, and I'm going to sound stupid for forgetting it, but it's going to come to me. But just another example of where Max Holloway is, or Colby Covington, at least for when Usman was the champion, better than the other competition. Although he managed to skirt, fighting a lot of people, maybe not quite 1-to-1 now that I think about it, but still, Max Holloway proving that he's at the top of the division even after all the longevity.
Yeah, definitely. And then you had that crazy knockout last night, Brandon Royval over Mateus.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
That one coming. We were definitely wrong on that. He gets on the mic and he goes, "Y'all must have forgot." Definitely must have forgot. Yeah, he went out there, had a starched Nicolau, and definitely he complained about being on the undercard and not being on the main card. Dana White was like, "Yeah, no, he's right. We messed up. We should not have had him there. We should have had him open the main card." So, hey, good on Brandon Royval, and I think he got $50K for that win.
Yeah,
a lot of fake retirements. How about the fake retirement? The fake out by Clay Guida.
Yeah, that was interesting. Just to wish somebody happy birthday. I understand though, he's been with the company quite a long time. You kind of have to give him the mic when he wants to speak without him having to pull a stunt like that.
Yeah, I hear that. But also at the same time, it's not necessarily the WWE where everybody gets to talk. You get the winners, comments, and if you lose, you can maybe have a press conference or something like that. I mean, to fake it out, I see why Dana is pissed. You know what I mean? And I also, a lot of people are saying oh, it was a fake out to wish happy birthday. It was a fake out. He took the gloves off to say that oh, I want to trade gloves because that was such a good fight, which I honestly didn't hate the idea of in the NFL, they'll trade jerseys, or actually in a lot of sports, they'll trade jerseys. I think it's actually a cool idea to have the fighters trade gloves.
Yeah.
But on the other side, if that requires you to take your gloves off and have a moment in the octagon that's maybe not planned for, and when you're on live TV, you have a certain schedule and things that you have to hit, and whatever your argument is for the fact that maybe an outdated media, the fact is that there's certain rules that comes to broadcasting, and they have to stay on a certain schedule. So I don't know how you would be able to work that to add that time in there, but I think it would be a cool thing that you have a couple of instances between high profile fighters or some whatever, if you build in a couple extra minutes so that if there is a great fight, those cool moments can of sportsmanship can happen. I think that would be something that'd be cool for the sport.
Yeah, that would be cool. They also do have the fighter meetings ahead of time too, and whoever's commentating the fight sits down, gets personal information, whatever. That's John Anik seems to know everybody's personal business. But I feel in a situation like that, a guy like Clay Guida could sit down at that meeting and be like, "Yo, DC, after the fight, do you mind passing me the mic for 30 seconds?" And then he put his thing there, because I think the thing about the glove exchange was kind of an excuse.
Sure. Yeah. But here's the thing: is like, all right, I get everything that Clay Guida has given to the company at that point, but like, happy birthday. I would say maybe it'd be one thing, and this is gonna sound maybe bad, maybe it's gonna come off worse than what I mean. But like, if there's somebody who's like going through like a cancer or like a terminal thing, or like there's a charity case, or a really good cause that you want to promote, that's absolutely one thing that maybe would warrant a couple seconds. But to say like, hey, I want to wish like my mom happy birthday, like I get it, mom, and it was also he allowed him to say mom, and then he had somebody else too, and that's when DC kind of took the marker. It might have even been Bisping, I think it was Bisping actually, but like took the mic away, or no, it was DC. All right, my memory's failing me, but regardless, that's when the mic was taken away from him. So I think it was just a lot like for like a birthday thing. It's like the end doesn't justify the means there. If there was, I think maybe a really good charity or a cause that he was trying to get out there, I think there maybe wouldn't be the amount of backlash. But like the birthday thing, I do think maybe there is something there to be said about having that like glove exchange, and that could be a cool moment. But they'd have to build that in, and who knows if they'd be willing to do that or not. But yeah, a birthday is a tough call. A birthday,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you lose me.
Well, speaking of retirements too, I did enjoy the Ed Herman fight. That was a good one.
Mhm.
I love seeing two old guys that are just like slugging it out. Um,
And
the chins
and
on those guys crazy.
well, and I was going to also say, Cummins being in his, hometown, home city, home state, and being able to go out that way after fighting, a guy who's as, I guess illustrious and has so much time in the octagon like Ed Herman, up a weight class, no less. So, and going out there and be able to get the finish, even, and staying composed too, which was, I think was really impressive by Zach Cummins. Like I thought, when he knocked, Ed Herman down at the beginning of the fight, you would be so easy with all the adrenaline and in that moment in your hometown, what you're probably thinking about going into that could potentially be his last fight. So thinking about that too, going into it, thinking that he could go out like that, being able to stay composed within himself and not, go after and chase the finish and then gas out, being able to fight, into the third round and get the finish then, I think was the most impressive part. And, at the end of the day, being able to go out saying he fought, I think it was like 3 times at 3 weight classes and got 3 finishes inside of the UFC. With the last one being that in a performance like that, being able to stay within himself, that's all you could ask for. So good on him for, going out on the top like that, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. That was a moment, and him picking up his daughter while giving his
Mhm.
retirement speech was definitely like a little bit of a tearjerker moment.
Sure, 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 sure. Absolutely. And that's when he lost it too, right?
Yeah,
So,
and then Ed Herman was crying too. I mean,
oh yeah, there
yeah,
was and I was John Anik on a yeah, John Anik was on the call last night, and he was saying, "Wow, there's not a dry eye in the house."
Gerald
Oh,
Fitz.
it was Fitzgerald? Well, still, whoever was on the call was saying that there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I remember what they said. I don't remember quite who said it clearly.
Yeah, well, Fitzgerald was good last night because like that is his name, right? Fitzgerald. I know.
Brandon Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I have a friend in the neighborhood named Fitzpatrick, so I always get the two mixed up.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's good, and I like that he like speaks his mind a little bit too. Like there was an early fight, the Edwards fight. Can't remember off the top of my head who it was. It was early on the prelims. But there was like bad judging going on in that fight, like a robbery, and there's Fitzgerald calling it out. Like he's like that's the most blatant, obvious, example of bad judging I've seen in my time here. It's like, wow, get him. You know, it's fun to hear those guys speak their mind.
Well, especially I got to imagine them along with the guys who are going to be asking the questions at the press conference, like can easily have some sort of like negative repercussions slapped on them for maybe saying something they shouldn't ask, or saying something they shouldn't say, or asking something they shouldn't ask, and just ask Ariel Helwani about that, breaking something that he wasn't supposed to break, and then obviously now
Yeah,
as that whole feud. But Dana can obviously make a lot of these guys when they're reporting on the UFC and the UFC solely, or at least the UFC gets the majority of the coverage. That's what they're reporting on and rely on for stories.
right.
He obviously holds a ton of power there, so there's a whole lot of reason to stay in line. You know what I mean? And probably why we don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the UFC does have the ultimate out when it comes to that situation because it's not their judges. Like, it's
Oh, well, yeah, when it's bad judging for sure. For sure they can be, and I think they kinda like it too, because
yeah,
they openly criticize it, but it gets people talking about the UFC, and they have, like you said, that, like, that baked in, out for saying like, "Well, it's nothing that we can control," and it's not like they can decide what the rules are. They're just the promotion.
yeah, yeah. But the whole thing about judging and rule, changing and point scoring, that's definitely a conversation for another day. I mean, we can
Yeah,
talk
that's
about that for hours and hours, probably.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, we can go ahead and get into UFC Fight Night Pavlovich versus Blaydes. This is a pretty good looking card for a fight night. The UFC has been putting some good ones on. This one returning back to the Apex. Max Holloway technically on a fight night card, going out to Kansas City, returning, I guess, to the roots that the UFC has had over at least the last 3 years now, putting on these fight night cards inside of the UFC Apex. Dana White recently had said that this is going to slow down significantly. So we got this one, and then I don't know where the card is next week, or I guess it would be the week after this, the week in between this and 288. But if that's in, they got New Jersey coming up after that, and a couple other spots. So they're going up to Canada. So UFC's on the move, and hopefully they're going to keep moving.
Man, that Canada card looks weak, right? The following week,
288 ain't much better.
Yeah, yeah. The following week was supposed to be Armin Sarukian versus Hanato Moicano, but right now the main event.
Hanato had to pull out a lot of pulling out lately.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So with that being said, we can get into the prelim notables for UFC Fight Night, Pavlovich versus Blaydes. Before we do that, though, just want to remind everybody, thanks for the support so far. Want to remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We really do appreciate it. It helps push the channel. And drop a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on the video, on the picks. What you've been tailing, what you've been fading, how you've been doing. If you're going with our picks, or if you're going with something else that you find hot, or another rule that you're finding that we haven't discussed yet, let us know. Anything to add to that, Keith? Like, comment, subscribe to the people out there.
Just follow us on Twitter. Check out our stuff on menoforder.com. There's guys over at Pickin' Winners that are doing their thing right now, like Tyler's back on the lacrosse. So, yeah, plenty of stuff our way. Check it out, please. Thank you.
All right. With that being said, time for the prelim notables. All right. So, first things first, prelim notables. I'm starting off with the very first fight on the card, and it's Brady Highstand taking on. It was first Dana Baccarel, and then it was Baccarel Dana Dana. Now I think there's another pronunciation. Bacare Dana, I think that last part is pronounced like an IE. A couple times on our videos, I know you're not supposed to read the comments, but read the comments a little bit. There's not too many, so it takes like half a second. But read it, and it's like, at least pronounce the names right. And listen, sometimes with these names, they change pronunciation from fight to fight to fight, and it's really hard, and the fighters don't always correct it. And there's a lot of cases where the fighters are fine with it, or maybe even say it a couple different ways. So it gets really hard to keep track of what these fighters' names are, especially when there's an evolution. So I'm going to go with Baccarel Dana for this time, and he's taking on Brady Highstand. Brady Highstand's a guy off of the Ultimate Fighter, coming in 6-2. I think going into the Ultimate Fighter, he might have been 4-2 or 5-1. A very inexperienced MMA guy. And then you can see that he had the split decision loss to Ricky Tercios, who Ricky Tercios looked good on the Ultimate Fighter, came out. I think he had one fight where it went back and forth, and he was able to get the victory, but there was a little bit of concern about his wild nature and hitability, and then comes out in his next fight and was really tentative and was boring, and just didn't get to the place and didn't have the excitement that a lot of people thought that he was going to bring. So then that brings into question kind of Brady Highstand and his level of competition against a guy like that. He got the win against Fernie Garcia, who, that's not I guess a terrible win, but it's not anything that's a ton of gives you a ton of confidence in this fight against a guy like Baccarel Dana, who's 33 years old. So he's going to have 10 years on him, but still in the prime of his career himself. He's coming off 2 losses, but that was to Chris Gutierrez, who I know he had a bad performance last night, but Chris Gutierrez is definitely one of the guys in the upper probably top 10 of the division. If you're talking pure stylistic matchup, and 135 pounds is one of the top talent level divisions, top stack divisions inside of the UFC. So, fighting a guy like Chris Gutierrez, and I know he got finished, it still provides a level of competition that Baccarel Dana has realized that Brady Hiestand just hasn't even come close to. And on top of that, he had a back and forth decision that he ended up losing to Kung Hyo Kang. But again, Baccarel Dana has shown that he has some versatility in his game. Brady Hiestand is not that great when it comes to striking. He's still learning that area. He is, I think, a collegiate wrestler. He has a grappling base, and that's where he's strongest at. And I think Baccarel Dana, between his experience and his overall skill set, I think he's going to be able to thwart a lot of the attempts that Brady's going to go for in terms of the grappling, at least enough to keep it standing long enough to really get a big advantage on the feet. He could use the jab. He can use his overhand right and his power shots to really hurt Brady. And I think it's going to be a case of Brady Hiestand just biting off a little bit more than he can chew at this point in his career. Again, he's 23 years old, so he's still got a lot of time. But I think that minus 175 on Baccarel Dana, it's not scaring me away. And I'm going to go with him on this one. And I think he could probably even get it done. He's got a couple finishes on his record here, including of Guido Canetti inside of the UFC, Kevin Natividad, Brandon Davis. So yeah, I'm going to go with Baccarel Dana to get it done here. And I think that would probably be, it's not even the first knockout of Brady Hiestand's career. So yeah, give me Dana to get it done by finish.
Yeah, I like that pick quite a bit. I feel like Baccarel Dana, I guess that's the new way we're saying it. Just like
that's what we're rolling with for this video at the very least.
So yeah, I feel like Dana definitely has the power. He has the stand-up game to knock out Brady Hiestand. And there hasn't really been like a super exciting or promising tough alum in quite some time. Like we have Muhammad Usman on this card too. He hasn't really done anything to get me hyped to see him. Mm-hmm. Same with Brady Hiestand and Baccarel Dana. He's got some nice finishes, and I enjoy watching him fight. And so I'm with you on that pick.
Cool. What's your next prelim notable, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to do like a quick two-parter. Should be a nice little parlay. Have yet to see the odds, but I'm going to go with the fight between Priscilla Cachoeira and Corrine Silva, as well as the fight between Carol Rosa and Norma Dumont, both to go the distance. So parlay that, because neither of these four women are particularly like finishers. They kind of snuck these more lackluster women's fights into the card. They'll be the ones that, you get up, go to the bathroom if you're really watching it intently. But if you're betting, I definitely like both of these fights to go the distance. Leaning towards Silva and Dumont to win their fights respectively. Norma Dumont has a special place in my heart. So that's what I'm rolling with for the prelims.
All right, interesting. I got one more that I wanted to go over, and that's going to be Muhammad Usman is taking on Junior Tafa. Both of these guys are the younger brother of a UFC champion or contender. Junior Tafa, the younger brother of Justin Tafa. And you got Muhammad Usman, the younger brother. Actually, I think he's the older brother of Kamaru Usman. So both of these guys are heavyweights. Junior Tafa, the much slimmer guy, as you could see. It doesn't have his latest weight. Muhammad Usman coming in at 236. That is a very lean 236. And I guess when he gets into the cage, he looks much bigger. He's not the tallest. I guess he is 6'2", but he looks huge. Usman looks big for his size and his frame. Muhammad Usman is, just as big, if not, actually not just as big. He is much bigger. He doesn't move as well as his brother. He does have a decent wrestling base, and he does have knockout power, but he is a little bit sloppy. And even at 34 years old, it looks like this is like still something that he's still getting the hang of. And he's not an accomplished, striker or really even grappler, MMA artist at this point in his career. So I think he's still coming on. He's got a lot to learn. I don't think he's ever going to, accomplish the same feats that his brother has, but I think he can definitely get in there and he could win a couple of fights, especially against lesser trained guys. Now, I don't know if Junior Tafa is going to be one of those lesser trained guys. He's coming in at 26 years old. He's a little bit taller. I'm not exactly sure what his reach is, but I think he's going to have a reach advantage in this fight. He's definitely the far better kickboxer and striker. He has quick kicks, and he's got a fantastic chin, just like his brother. He only has 4 fights. All of them, I believe, are ending with finishes here. So not a top level competition, but, definitely a 3-4, 15-12, 4-3, 6-1. Some of these guys have a decent amount of experience. I think at this point, Muhammad Usman is going to be able to have that wrestling advantage, but he has shown some inability to get in there and actually get those takedowns. And even when he does, because he's so big, they can sometimes be slower takedowns that against a better trained opponent, they could, be able to thwart them. Like I said, Muhammad Usman, he's decent in a lot of areas, but he also has a lot of holes in a lot of different areas of his game as well. So I think I'm going to lean with this one to go to Junior Tafa. I think he's the better prospect. I think he's younger. I think he's going to be faster. I think I know he has power. And Muhammad Usman, he has power as well. But I think being just having a little bit less fight IQ and a little bit less ability and a little bit less speed is ultimately going to be the downfall here and why Junior Tafa is going to get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you on that pick, and Vegas certainly is too. He's a nice little favorite there, but nothing too crazy. Yeah, minus 190. So yeah, I'm good on the prelim stuff. What about you? Got anything else?
Yeah, I'm good. Let's move up to the main card. All right. First fight on the main card. Jeremiah Wells taking on Matthew Semmelsberger, Semi the Jedi. He goes by. You want to start us off with this one, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really leaning towards. Well, first of all, I feel like this is opening up the main card because I have a strong feeling it's going to end in a finish. So fight not to go the distance, quite a good bet here. Both of these guys have like pretty good power. I think Jeremiah Wells is the more powerful of the two, but Matt Semmelsberger has finished people off before. He has shown he has a powerful right hand. But Jeremiah Wells, I think he's got the power advantage. He's a little bit better at hitting guys on the button. And, when it goes to the ground or when he drops a guy, he's good at getting in there and wrapping it up. I believe 2 fights ago. Solid rear naked choke. So, I'm rolling with Jeremiah Wells here, but definitely think that this fight's going to end in a finish. I feel like both of these guys are good at using power. They have power in their hands and they're good at catching guys. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying a lot, and I think Jeremiah Wells might have a speed advantage, but I know he's definitely going to have a power advantage. And then when it comes to the ground, I almost said Semi the Jettelsberger, Matt Semi the Jedi is definitely going to have I don't want to say definitely, and actually I don't even think he's gonna. He's got some ability for the jiu-jitsu game on the ground. He's another guy that I think is good in a lot of areas, but also in those same areas leaves a lot of holes in his game. Where a guy like Jeremiah Wells, who has a really good jiu-jitsu base and the ability to knock you out, the concern for Jeremiah Wells is as the fight goes on, he does carry a lot of muscle. He's 36 years old. He has a lot to go for in the UFC here in terms of like time that he's got left. He's really got to turn the gas on or turn the motor on or whatever analogy you want to use. He really has to get it going at 36 years old in the 170-pound division to really make something. And the first step is going to be finishing Matt Semmelsberger. And if he does it in fantastic fashion, that moves him up the list faster. So I think he's going to come out aggressive and try and do that. He has trained with Paul Felder for a while, so I do expect him to have good fight IQ. So I don't think he's going to be reckless. But the question is once the fight gets into the second, into the third round, let me just go back and look at his fights over the last 4 years. He's fought 5 times. Knockout, submission, knockout, submission, and then another knockout. And I think a lot of these were early in the fight. So, he hasn't gone the distance much at all. And we don't have much, to go on in terms of how that's going to go, especially with a competent opponent like Semi the Jedi. I don't think he's going to be able to get finished. I think his jiu-jitsu is going to be too good, especially even when it gets late into the fight. I think there's a potential that, if he gets tired, Semmelsberger could start landing on him, especially that right hand that you mentioned. But I think because, Jeremiah Wells is the faster fighter, he's the stronger fighter, he's the more powerful fighter, and he's probably has a little bit of an edge in the jiu-jitsu game as well. He's just not the longer fighter, and he's certainly the shorter fighter here. So Matt Semmelsberger is going to have the longer legs, so maybe a little bit harder for Jeremiah Wells to get in there, but maybe he can catch a kick and try and throw Semmelsberger to the ground. Bottom line is I think Jeremiah Wells has more ways to get it done, and I'm going to go with him to get it done in this main card opener.
Solid. Super lock.
All right. Moving up the card, Yasmin Lucindo, Brogan Walker. What are your thoughts?
Conflicted here. Both of these women lost their UFC debuts in their last fight. I think Lucindo appears to be a little bit more well-rounded. You had Brogan Walker get finished in her last fight, by KO. TKO. Got dropped and then some ground and pound. But I think I'm gonna roll with Yasmin Lucindo. Seems like she has better hands. And is super powerful for a 5'3" woman. She's got a good stocky frame to her too. Like she's got a very athletic like wrestler's frame. you could tell that if you wouldn't want to get punched in the face by her, even as like a pretty sizable male, you would not want to get cracked by that girl. So rolling with her here, but again, neither one of them has really done anything to you know as at least within the UFC like make me confident in either one. But I'm gonna roll with Lucinda.
Yeah, I'm gonna also go with Yasmin Lucindo. She fought Yasmin Yaragway. I remember that fight. It was back and forth, and both of those girls were young, but Yasmin Lucindo, even though she lost the fight, I think there was another case where the both of those girls came away with their stock being raised, and I think she has really good stand up. She has good kickboxing. She showed an ability to be able to fight off a potentially good ground game of an opponent. I think she's quick. She's definitely got a chin on her, and that's the reason why she's the minus 300 favorite, especially at 21 years old. I like that she took 7 months off from a back and forth war with Yasmin Yaragway. 21 years old, I think she's going to be improving a lot. This is a fight at 115 pounds, and the last time we saw Brogan Walker was at 125 pounds, and that lost to Juliana Miller, in which Juliana Miller, hasn't looked so great as of late. So, and maybe a lot of the reason why Juliana Miller got pushed the way she did was because of the fight against Brogan Walker, who, again, she's not that great herself. She showed massive holes in a lot of different areas of her game, and she actually even struggled to show some sort of competency in a lot of different areas. And I don't mean to be disrespectful in that way, but I mean, in terms of like the UFC and UFC level talent and ability, she just isn't there with a lot of the other girls at 125 pounds and 115 pounds. So I'm concerned about her moving down. She's going to have less power. She is going to be roughly about the same size too, so she's not going to have much of an advantage there either. I think Yasmin Lucindo is going to be the quicker fighter, the more powerful fighter. She's going to have a better stand up, and if she tries to go to the ground, I think that's where Lucindo's better too. So I think Lucindo's definitely going to win this fight, and I would almost tend to think that this could end by a TKO if Brogan Walker just finds herself, kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah. She looks like she leaves her chin out there a little bit, and definitely could get finished by a woman with the power of Yasmin Lucindo. Next up, we got Bobby Green versus Jared Gordon. I'm excited for this fight. I feel like Jared Gordon definitely earned quite a bit of respect after his, again, robbery against Paddy Pimblett. I truly stand by, that Jared Gordon won that fight. As do a lot of people online. It looks like just other scousers are the ones that are like pro Paddy in that decision. But I'm gonna roll with Bobby Green. Better striking, better head movement. Like, there's not much to say about Bobby Green at this point, especially on a 2-fight streak. Definitely expect him to, come back and put his hands go incredible. Fighting style was Hood. His fighting style.
Yep, he was. Yeah, Hood.
Yeah, I think the Hood style is going to overpower Jared Gordon's typically more traditional style. No, but like for real, Bobby Green he's really good at evading, and he's really good at landing creative strikes. And Jared Gordon, he's solid. He's going to land a lot of leg kicks here, I think, and that might be it. He'll probably land a couple of shots, but I'm rolling with Bobby Green. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Jared Gordon's a guy who's decent at striking, decent at grappling, decent at takedowns, and ultimately Bobby Green, who's a specialist in stand-up style with boxing. He can throw some good kicks, throw some low leg kicks, but he's got ultimately really, really great head movement. Up until recently, he had a really good chin. I don't think that, even though he's coming back quickly against Drew Dober, or after that knockout of Drew Dober, or knocked out, but after he was knocked out by Drew Dober, he is coming back fairly quickly, only 3 months. And he was knocked out cold. So that does give me some pause, but he's fighting Jared Gordon, who I know that he hasn't had a finish lately. He has one finish ever inside of the UFC, 3 in Cage Fury, 2011 to 2017. So he's got one finish in the last 5 years. So I'm not totally concerned about Jared Gordon, especially considering the head movement of Bobby Green and his overall awkward style, the fact that he usually finds himself, either blocking or evading a punch. So I think he's far more advanced and equipped on the feet over Jared Gordon. And I think that if Jared Gordon does try to take it to the ground, Bobby Green, I think he's either a brown belt or a black belt, but he's very accomplished on the ground as well. So I think there's a lot of different ways that Bobby Green can get it done. done. I see Jared Gordon's only real ability to get this one done is going to be by decision, and I don't see how he gets that one done unless he just overwhelms Bobby Green. But Bobby Green is such a tactician that I think that he'll be able to keep that head moving, find some openings, land big shots, and if he doesn't finish Jared Gordon, I think he's definitely going to have more of a significant strike advantage. And in that first round against Drew Dober, he was very much outlanding Drew Dober by a good margin too. And Drew Dober was just able to find that knockoff, that shutoff button. And even against Islam Makhachev, he was able to avoid some takedowns for a short period of time, but he's still able to avoid some of the takedowns. And ultimately, he took that one on short notice too. So I like Bobby Green in basically every area that this fight could take place in.
Yeah, same. He's really good at getting up after a takedown. Like, it really favors him on feet. He's really good at getting back up, which
right.
I know casuals. I hate that term casuals, but I know there's plenty of people that like they see a fight when it's primarily grappling, get pissed off, and they're like, "Somebody just stand up." Bobby Green is one of the guys that
he does kind of just stand up. Yeah, he's just like, I'm just going to stand up, and people don't hold him down, and it's hard to score points even with the takedown if you're not doing damage down there.
Yeah, it's hard to keep him back down, and when he gets up, he gives those same fans what they want, an exciting fight, on his feet. So next up, we got Brad Tavares versus Bruno Silva. I'm rolling with Brad. Brad is just a tough SOB. Last fight around, he fought DDP, and that was a crazy fight. Both guys going at it, both guys exhausted, landing heavy shots. He almost had DDP out a couple of times, and DDP right back to him. But yeah, I like Brad Tavares. He's fought some of the best competition going in this division. Definitely falling off a little bit, but he's fought some great guys, right? He fought Izzy. He actually gave Izzy like one of his. I think it was Izzy's second to last fight. I guess his fight right before Gastelum. I'm pretty sure.
The fighter finale, he beat him for the ultimate.
That's right.
Ultimate fighter.
Yeah, 5-round fight. Izzy's gotten better since then. But or I don't know if it was a 5-round.
No, yeah, Izzy beat Brad Tavares.
Yeah. So that's right. And then I think he went on to fight Gastelum in 2018 as well, and that was moved up quick, basically, right? Could be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive. And Brad Tavares is a tough fight for him. He's fought some great guys since then too. Like he has a loss to Edmund Shabazian. No
squad. He went on to fight Brunson, then Silva, then Gastelum, then Whitaker, Romero, Costa, Pavlovich, Vittori.
Wow.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. That he was really active during that time period.
Mm-hmm.
I almost forgot. Yeah, I'm rolling with Brad here. Brad, better all-around fighter, strong hands, good stand-up game, can take a beating. So I like Brad here. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, what I was just showing before was Brad Tavares' record, and you saw that like his three main losses were to Dricus du Plessis, who's a guy who they're talking about, even though he's a little bit outside the top five. Talk about him potentially fighting Israel Adesanya or positioning there. So obviously a top guy in the division, and they said that up until like I think a week ago, he's only getting 8% oxygen through his nose, which is why he was almost fighting better with his mouth open at the end of the fight, but his mouth was always open because he couldn't breathe through his nose. So interesting to see what he's going to be with actual oxygen getting through his face. But Dricus du Plessis is a loss. He's got the loss to Edmund Shabazian, kick over the head. Eddie Shabazian is a guy who's considered, at the top of the division and young too. And then Israel Adesanya. Those are his three losses. He's got wins over Omari Akhmedov, where he had, shown a resilience to be able to take some leg kicks and still keep going forward and land big shots. So he's got some pretty good wins and not too bad losses on his record here. But when you go back and you look at Bruno Silva, his crowning achievement is a loss to Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
In which what was that?
It was a great loss.
It is a great loss, but you go back and you look at it in a lot of cases in the second and the third round was Bruno Silva being able to utilize grappling and clinching up against the fence to tie up Pereira towards like the middle or the end of the round to be able to kind of secure it for himself, or even not secure it for himself, but secure his consciousness, through that round and not being separated. And, there were certain instances where Alex Pereira was landing, never had Bruno Silva like really stunned that bad and like ready to finish him. But there were certainly times where Alex Pereira was getting through. Now, Bruno Silva was getting through himself on occasion. But, he wasn't able to put Alex Pereira away. And then you go back and you look at some of his UFC competition. You have Wellington Turman, who's not in the UFC anymore. Andrew Sanchez is not in the UFC anymore. Jordan Wright is not in the UFC anymore. None of these guys were particularly successful. Andrew Sanchez was the most successful out of all of them. And his most recent fight is in May of last year on Eagle FC, which I think now is disbanded. But he's got the loss over Makhmed Muradov, and then the win over Wellington Turman, win over Marc-Andre Barrios. Now we're getting kind of into the weeds here, but it's not Andrew Sanchez. Did my thing freeze here? It's not like Andrew Sanchez is top level UFC talent or a win to be super proud of, especially going up against Brad Tavares and a guy who's had the level of competition that he's had. I think we're going to see one of two things. The bet on this fight is what Bruno Silva is going to show up here. Are you going to see the Bruno Silva that was basically knocked out by Gerald Meerschaert? I think it was a right hand or a left hand that sat him down, and then Gerald Meerschaert went down, gave him a couple punches, and jumped on a guillotine and submitted him. And was he able to get knocked down from Gerald Meerschaert because he was afraid of the takedown, something that Brad Tavares, who's well-rounded, is going to be able to potentially threaten as well? Like I said, Bruno Silva was the one with the grappling advantage against Alex Pereira. He didn't have the speed advantage. He didn't have the size advantage. So against Brad Tavares, he's not going to have a clear size advantage. He may not have a speed advantage either. It's going to be close on that one. And then Brad Tavares is going to have the grappling advantage. And Brad Tavares, typically has a really good chin too. And Bruno Silva is a guy we just saw have a chin issue for the first time. So for all those reasons, going with Brad Tavares, I think there's a lot more ways that he can get it done in this fight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like Brad Tavares a lot. That's another super lock. All right. I'm going with Song Yadong Song over Ricky Simone. This is a tight one, real tough fight to pick, but I think Song has a lot of power behind those. One of the few guys to really rock Corey Sandhagen. He's got some really solid wins. He's just a great boxer overall. You look at his last 5 fights, coming off a loss to Corey Sandhagen. That's right, the doctor stoppage, crazy. Marlon Moraes, that win hasn't really aged super well.
Right.
Marlon Moraes, in the first round of every fight, he looks like an absolute world beater, and then goes on to just lose.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a tank issue, if it's a chin issue, a combination issue, a body breakdown thing, but yeah, that's a real shame for Marlon.
Yeah, big time. And was supposed to retire, and now he's getting TKO'd with a leg kick over at the PFL. It's tough to watch, man. He's regressed super fast. But back in the day, really good. Gave Henry Cejudo a tough fight. And, but anyways, Song Yadong, good resume. Wins over Casey Kenny. That was a good one. Julio Arce. I think Song Yadong is going to land the stronger shots, the heavier shots, craftier boxing combinations. And he definitely has the ability to catch somebody. But Ricky Simone is a really highly touted prospect right now. Part of this is bias. I'm a huge Song Yadong fan. He's a guy I play as a lot in UFC 4. But and I do like his odds quite a bit. He's near even, so Vegas has a little bit of faith. He definitely has the ability to box his way to a decision. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, I think Ricky Simone is a really interesting pick, and I made the mistake of picking against him, against Jack Shore, and he went out there and he submitted Jack Shore, a guy who's known for going out there and having a good grappling game and submitting opponents himself. So Ricky Simone is a guy that I think at this point I just can't bet against, and I really thought hard about it against coming up against this fight with Song Yadong, a guy who went out there and he technically lost to Corey Sandhagen, but he was going out there and giving Corey Sandhagen a good a good fight, and even Sandhagen had to say Song Yadong is so fast and he hits so hard. He's only 25 years old, so he is still improving. Ricky Simone entering his prime. Ricky Simone is going to be the stronger fighter in terms of pure muscle. And for a guy that has strong grappling and quick takedowns like Ricky Simone does, and he also picks his shots and his time really, really well, which is probably the best attribute you can have as a grappler, as somebody trying to get your opponent to the mat, is having that timing and being able to read and pick your shots. I think that's probably Ricky Simone's biggest strength, in addition to his actual strength and his technique. And I think against a guy like Song Yadong, it's going to be really difficult because of how fast Song Yadong is. But if anyone can do it, I'm going to put faith in Ricky Simone to be able to do that and get Song Yadong to the ground. And Song Yadong is a guy who wasn't out grappled per se by Corey Sandhagen, but Corey Sandhagen definitely was able to push him up against the fence, hold on to him, and then create some sort of scramble where he was landing some elbows that ultimately cut over and open Song Yadong, and just kind of switched up the fight, never allowed Song Yadong to get it going. And I think Ricky Simone, if he can put that pressure on him, use that jab, he's going to have a little bit of a reach advantage. If he can use the jab and then use that pressure, use that stamina that he has so well, and put it on Song Yadong, back him up, keep him on the back foot, and then eventually shoot for that takedown. I think he's going to be able to shoot for that takedown and then maybe turn Song Yadong away from the fence so that he's able to land, even if it's in Song's guard, he's able to land against the fence or with his back to the fence. Should I say Ricky's back to the fence, Song Yadong with the entire octagon in front of him, and potentially, disallow Song from being able to stand right back up and use the fence. So for that reason, I'm going to be going with Ricky Simone. I think he's versatile, and I think if he's able to get Song Yadong down, he's going to be able to win. I don't know if he's going to have the speed. I don't know if he's going to have the power, but I think he's going to be competent enough at both levels to be able to get it done here. He is the slight favorite, and looking at the people on Tapology, he's also a slight favorite there as well. I think ultimately probably Song Yadong has better of a chance to finish the fight. I don't know if Song Yadong is going to end up in a submission and get submitted, but then again, if that could happen to Jack Shore, it could happen to almost anyone in the division. So I'm not betting against Ricky Simone at this point. So Ricky Simone.
I totally respect the pick. I totally respect it. One of my reasons is that, for a very similar reason for why I'm picking the guy in the main event up now, is power. And Sergey Pavlovich is like the definition of power. He's it's not a matter of if he knocks out his opponents, it's when. I don't know. I mean, last six fights, 6-fight winning streak, all by knockouts and TKOs. Had a loss to Alistair Overeem in his debut in the UFC. Got knocked out in the first round. But other than that, I mean, he's shown nothing but promise, knocking guys out like Tai Tuivasa in his last fight and Derek Lewis. And he just touched Tuivasa, and Tuivasa folded like a sack of potatoes. Mm-hmm. Kind of nuts. And
even that Shamil Abdurakhimov knockout shouldn't be overlooked.
No, definitely not. But, the whole reason I'm bringing up Tai is just because he was really highly touted heavyweight. You had Dana White basically like putting him on a major pedestal. Part of that is the personality. Your personality can sell fights. But he was in some brawls, Tai. And Sergey Pavlovich basically just touched him. And it's crazy because it really speaks to Sergey's power. We've seen Curtis Blaydes get knocked out before. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a blueprint to knocking him out, but he does telegraph his takedowns a little bit for such a good wrestler. And we've seen, heavyweights with really fast, strong hands, like Derek Lewis. I mean, that knockout is like an all-time highlight, but we've seen guys be able to capitalize on that. It's Sergey Pavlovich. We haven't really seen him against a crazy wrestler yet. But Curtis Blaydes, it does kind of seem like Curtis has fallen in love with his hands. He has really been using them a lot and finishing guys with them. And I think that would be a major mistake for him to try and stand with Sergey. I think he might potentially do it. So I'm going with Sergey Pavlovich plus money. What are his odds? Pulling it up right now.
Plus 145.
Plus 145 by knockout, especially if you take him by first round knockout. I'm sure that those odds will be really, really sweet. So, I'm rolling with Sergey and, prop it up, getting a first-round knockout. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Curtis Blaydes minus 175, big favorite, and I guess that makes sense. And typically, I would go with the grappler, and even at heavyweight, a guy who has proven ability to get guys to the ground and dominate them there. And we're also looking at Sergey Pavlovich. He's on a 6-fight win streak, all of those by knockouts and by finish, or a 5-fight win streak, all by finish. His last loss was against Alistair Overeem in the first round, like you said. And what happened? Alistair Overeem was able to take him down and basically just smush him. Now, we also have a rule here at Pick and Fights about, fighters in their making their UFC debut that typically not going their way. So, Sergey Pavlovich, no different. And obviously, he came back, just 5 short months after that and has just been starching people. Round one finish. Had to take a little bit of time off here because he just couldn't get a fight here. Or was there, he was injured, right? He had visa issues and then also travel issues too, all throughout COVID. So I had to take some time off there. Comes about first round knockout over Shamil Abdurakhimov. First round knockout over Derek Lewis, which isn't easy to do. First round knockout over Tai Tuivasa, which definitely isn't easy to do. And these are not just anybody. And then you take look at Curtis Blaydes, and his wins inside of the UFC. Most recently, he's got the loss to Derek Lewis, because he was going for a takedown. Derek was able to knock him out. So that's a guy with big power. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's a guy with big power. But Curtis Blaydes was able to utilize the fact that Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a kickboxer. Against Chris Dawkins. Chris Dawkins is a guy who that we probably were holding a little bit too high in regard, maybe because of limited competition inside of the COVID bubble-ish, or the available fighters to fight during COVID. So Chris Dawkins had an artificially inflated reputation. And then Tom Aspinall, yeah, he's got the win over Tom Aspinall. I really wish we would have been able to see how that fight went out. I don't know if we can even really count this, because Tom Aspinall went in there and he got his knee blown out, set 15 seconds into the round. So you look at a lot of these wins over here. He's got the win over Alexander Volkov for sure. But you look at some of these wins here for Curtis Blaydes, and it's just questionable considering the level of opponent and how those fights went. Now, is he going to be able to get Sergey Pavlovich to the ground? That's the biggest question here, and that's really what I guess Vegas is assuming, is going to be able to get him to the ground. But I think Sergey Pavlovich is going to be really fast. He's really powerful. Have you seen those videos of him shadowboxing on the beach? I mean, at the end of the day, I know that those can be harder to tell how a fighter is going to perform, and they shouldn't necessarily be your biggest indicator. But I mean, Jesus, Sergey Pavlovich, he looks good, and there's no caveats that come along with him. He's big, he's powerful, he's knocking everyone out in the first round. Not sure how he's going to last in the second and the third round, and maybe that's where Curtis Blaydes is going to go if Curtis Blaydes doesn't get knocked out. But it's not like we haven't seen Curtis Blaydes get knocked out before. It wouldn't be novel. And I think, the 30-year-old, slightly younger, I think he's a 4-inch reach advantage. So for Curtis Blaydes to have to get in there and get in on him against this guy who's very powerful, I think potentially Curtis Blaydes is going to be tentative, and because it's essentially kind of he's facing the Derek Lewis 2.0 version. We know what happened last time. You can maybe look for him to maybe fake something like that, but ultimately, I think Sergey Pavlovich, he just has to find you once. So, and he's fast. Again, I think you can maybe do like a Sergey Pavlovich, by knockout decision, no bet. If he's plus 145, you could probably get that. Maybe it'd probably be around the same, honestly, 165, 175, but at least that protects you. Maybe it'll actually be a little bit more favorable, because I don't know if Curtis Blaydes is going to be able to finish Sergey Pavlovich on the ground. I don't see Sergey getting finished again. He is just so big at this point. He'll probably be able to just press Curtis Blaydes off, but it's going to be tight. This is actually a really good fight, even the more I think about it. But I'm going with Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah, I like the pick. My biggest concern for Sergey here is really the gas tank, and that's right. I haven't seen him get pushed past the first round. He does. I mean, he's lean for being a guy with so much muscle mass. He's like this new breed of heavyweight that we're seeing that's not, like basically got any fat on his body whatsoever. He's a lot.
It was a 5-rounder, right?
Yeah, it's a 5-rounder. So
Then I'm taking this not to go the distance for sure.
Yeah, no, I feel like you have to take it Sergey knockout or nothing, you go Curtis Blaydes if that's what you're feeling. But I feel like if you're going with
if Pavlovich gets tired by the second round, the third and the fourth, Curtis Blaydes is gonna be able to start getting those takedowns, and then if Sergey's that exhausted, he might be able to just TKO, ground and pound him to a finish.
I wouldn't take it to go the distance at all.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like I can't necessarily say like Sergey Pavlovich by knockout. Yeah, it's gonna be Sergey Pavlovich by knockout, but that's gonna be his way to win. He's not submitting Curtis Blaydes, and he's probably not winning a decision. If he does, that would really be a statement win there, huh? Going out there and winning a decision over Curtis Blaydes, like, no, I didn't even get a quick knockout of this guy. I went out there and I beat him, 3 out of 5 rounds. So that would be a big statement for Sergey Pavlovich in terms of longevity and title shot next. But and also considering that John Jones is going to fight potentially Stipe at Madison Square Garden, then call that a career, that heavyweight title might be open again up for grabs. So Sergey Pavlovich definitely needs to go out and get that win.
Yeah, he could definitely make a run at it, especially because Curtis Blaydes is a guy that's in like title talks right now. Maybe a couple more good wins. Depending on who's holding the belt after, the John Jones Stipe fight that's supposedly going to happen soon. Whoever's hoisting the belt after that, it leaves a lot of potential opportunities open for a guy like Sergey. But yeah, I think it's first round knockout or nothing. That's where I'm leaning. All right, you want to go with our pick rundowns? What do you think?
I'm with it. All right, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So for my prelim notables locks, I'm going with the Cachoeira Silva fight and the Cal Rosa Dumont fight. Parlay both of those to go the distance. I think those are going to be long, long seeming rounds in a 3-round fight. For the main card, I'm going with Jeremiah Wells over Matt Semmelsberger, Yasmin Lucindo over Brogan Walker, Bobby Green over Jared Gordon, Brad Tavares over Bruno Silva, Yadong Song over Ricky Simone, and Sergey Pavlovich over Curtis Blaydes. I got 2 underdogs. I like it. What do you think, Tom?
Nice. For the prelims, I am going to go with Abakarel Dana over Brady Highstand. I am going with Junior Tafa over Mohammed Usman. And I'm going to trail you, and I'm going to say Norma Dumont gets it done over Carol Hosa. But I actually think that Karine Silva is potentially going to get a submission win over Priscilla Cachoeira. I think that could potentially be a good one. She's got a lot of submissions on her record there, so she could potentially look for that. She could potentially look for it and go too hard, and ultimately not get it and it go the other way. But definitely something to look out for there. Moving on to the main card and my picks for that. I like Jeremiah Wells to get it done over Matthew Semmelsberger. I'm going with Yasmin Lucindo to get it done over Broken Walker. Bobby Green to get it done over Jared Gordon. Staying on the left side, Brad Tavares over Bruno Silva. And I'm actually going to go with Ricky Simone to get it done over Yadong Song. We're going to venture on different sides of the fight on that one, Keith. And going to join you again. Sergey Pavlovich going to get it done over Curtis Blaydes, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight. Solid card, like you said before. Just want to ask the people at home one more time, please like, comment, subscribe. Helps us out. Send this over to your friends too. If you have friends that are interested in betting, say you don't even want to sit through the whole episode. Totally understand it. Timestamps are in the description. If you just want to snag our picks at the end of the episode. Spotify, check out Spotify. If you can't watch a full episode, you can listen to us on there. Follow us over on Twitter. Our names are underneath our faces. They are at PickinTom for Tom. at PickinFightsTom, and I'm at PickinKeith. And we have the full team and the website at _PickinWinners, Instagram, Twitter, at PickinFights on Instagram, and then we do stuff with Men of Order as well. So check out our weekly blogs on menoforder.com. All right, I think I covered it all, right, Tom?
I think you did. Thanks for sticking with us. If you've been here till the end, or if you've been constantly watching our videos, be a friend, tell a friend, and hope you have a good week of bets. And can't wait to watch more fights. Thanks so much.
See you next week.